Yeah, me and Ricky Ricardo.
Well, good morning. Welcome to B Cube Morning. And special Sunday, we have Jim and David here with us. David has blessed us with a view of his front yard last year. And David, I envy you. I mean, how can
Well,
you possibly deal with this after having the beauty of LA out your front window?
yeah, that's what I keep saying. For this, we left LA.
I gotta love it. Well, it is BQ Sunday morning. We have had the debate. Um, the and we are now coming up on the 4th of July. You gotta love it. And so, what do you guys think a good topic of conversation might be today, Jim?
I want to talk about how we should elect Taylor Swift, but people on Threads don't think that's funny. So I suppose we should talk about where we are as a nation. And the thing is, or the part here that I think everybody's on. The last couple of days have been doom and gloom. Obviously, Biden didn't do very well in the debate, and that's not really very surprising. It's not really the kind of thing that he does well in. And it's the kind of thing himself excels at, because it's not really a debate. It's as those of you who follow me, who read what I write, it's a fire hose of bullshit. It's the Gish Gallop. It's everything that Trump does. He takes his 2 minutes to spew an endless fire hose of bullshit, and that's a technique. For those of you, everybody should be familiar with it by now. It's been 3 days, but if you're not, it's called the Gish Gallop. It's named after a guy named Dwayne Gish, who was a creationist back in the 70s, who used to use this technique to overwhelm debates about creationism and young Earth creationism, and he spew an endless line of falsehoods that it was impossible for educated people to refute, because you always look like a stumbling idiot because you don't know what to latch on to. You can't remember everything the guy said, and you always to spew more nonsense. And that's how it works. Gish was doing it on purpose. Trump isn't doing it on purpose. Trump is doing it because that's his personality. It's a form of intimidation that he uses. He's done this his whole life, probably since he was a little kid, and he just sprays you with a fire hose of liquid bullshit. And there's no way to respond to that without looking like an idiot. Now, I will say it, as I said online, Biden should have known how to deal with that. He's been for 4 years, he's run into it. He had an off night. He's got a cold. He's 80 years old. It happens. But the simple truth of the matter is, nothing's changed. You knew who Joe Biden was. You knew who Donald Trump was. You know what we're facing. You know what the problems are in the world. You know the situation. What's changed for you? I mean, your choices are to vote for fascism or stand against it.
Well, let's say something here. As like
I'm looking at. It's been babbling, wait for you to come out of that background, David. All right, good. Go.
All right. Well, now I'm looking at HuffPost, and here's all the pundits saying Biden should withdraw. And it's like, for the good of the country. Where are these people saying Trump should withdraw for the good of the country? And it's like, why do we have the circular firing squad on the Democratic side? It's because the Republicans are in a cult and the Democrats are pragmatic. But, apparently the Biden family is having a meeting sometime today to decide what their future will be. If they throw it open for the convention to pick a nominee, there's several front runners, but it would probably be Kamala Harris. But I know Pete Buttigieg and even Gavin Newsom would be good candidates, any one of whom could demolish Donald Trump. But in order to deal with the bigotry on the right wing, or even the hidden bigotry of the independents, their best bet would be Gavin Newsom, although I would prefer Pete Buttigieg because he's had the most experience in the federal government right now. I would vote for Kamala Harris too.
I will say to you that the loudest voices that I hear right now saying Biden should step down are all on the right hand side. They're all or Donald Trump. Donald Trump says it's the nation, which I find absolutely fucking hilarious. But I'm watching the New York Times say Joe Biden should step down for the good of the nation. Listen, if you're on the side with those people, you're on the wrong fucking side. I don't want Joe Biden to step down. I don't want Joe Biden to step down. Now, if he chooses to do that because that's what he chooses to do, then I'll support whoever stands against Trump.
I would vote for any Democrat over Donald Trump.
Right. I say that, but I'm sitting here looking at, I'm looking at, people that know me know that my office is a bunch of screens and there's social media flowing down, and I'm watching some of the less reputable platforms right now, and what I see scrolling down those screens is RFK wanting to step up. I'll take Joe Biden's place. Yeah, I bet you would, Worm Boy. Sit down.
Worm Boy. Oh, that's good. Yeah, Worm Boy. I like that.
God help us all that the choice is RFK and Donald Trump.
Yeah, I met his daddy. This one. Now, I would never accuse Ethel Kennedy of being unfaithful, but it's hard to believe RFK Jr. is actually the son of RFK.
The bottom line here is, and it's not. I joke, and that's the other thing that's happening this morning. I made a wisecrack on Threads earlier today about, stick with me here, but we would have placed Joe Biden, Taylor Swift, and I said, of course, the hatred, the absolute fucking hatred this morning for Taylor Swift on the right hand side. The only one that would spin them up more than Joe Biden is Taylor Swift as a nominee. Now, obviously, that's a joke. But of the, I don't know, the couple hundred replies to it, at least half of them are lefties that are just absolutely goddamn furious about the fact that I made a joke. Listen, folks, at this point, where we're at in this country, if you lose your sense of humor, you're not going to make it. All right. I spent 20 years in the military, 2 wars, and a lot of really hairy situations. And what gets you through is not letting the sons of bitches get you down. And I will tell you, nowhere in the world is there more humor than in an operating room, on a battlefield, in a tense flight control center, when everything's going to shit. That's what you need to hang out.
This goes back 30 years for me. As people said, what are the 2 most important things about adopting a kid? And I said 2 things: never stop loving your kid, and never lose your sense of humor, because you are going to get. Yeah, and the same thing is true with Aiden and Layla around here. It's like, if I'm not laughing, I'd be crying, because it's like, you
got to be able to. Humor is what gets you through. And I will say this again. It was, wrong side. There is no more humorless people in the world than Donald Trump supporters. My God, man, everything, whether it's breakfast cereal or pop music or goddamn whatever, everything is absolutely deadly serious. My God, it's the end of the fucking world all the time with these people. Don't be those people. Don't let these people suck the joy out of your life. If they destroy your ability to laugh, especially as lost, it's as simple as that. And I'll tell you something. You look at Joe Biden, the first thing that guy did after that disastrous debate was roll into a campaign rally and make fun of himself. It's the first thing that he did. If Joe Biden can laugh at himself, we can all laugh, okay? So don't lose your sense of humor, folks. We're going to win, okay? Whether Biden's the nominee or we're going to send these goddamn fascists and the humorless lefties who are pissed off about it. You're going to win. All right, so maintain your sense of humor, for crying out loud. All right, it's over to you, David. Are you talking? I can't hear you. Your microphone went out. Me? Wait, there's somebody.
Okay. We lost David.
There you go.
We lost David. There he is. Oops, sorry.
All right. Go figure.
Gotcha.
Anyway, let me make a point here. It's not just Joe Biden we're voting for. It is his entire administration. We have an incredibly competent administration that's the reason why Build Back Better is working. It's not that Joe Biden has got an administration of competent people who are committed to doing the job. You get Donald Trump in there, and what you get is corrupt thieves who are in it to see how much money they can loot from the national treasury, how much favors they can do for corporations and billionaires. And they will do what Ronald Reagan's administration did. They will rip out large handfuls of wiring and programs and procedures and all of the mechanics of government so they can get their way. Butts and Watts during Reagan administration destroyed the Department of Agriculture and the Department of the Interior. And that was the goal, is that Reagan was a figurehead for the right wing. Well, Trump is going to be a figurehead for the worst, not just the right wing, but the fanatics who want to end democracy. And in fact, Project 2025, one of the people behind it said, get ready for the end of democracy. Once we take over, he didn't say we're going to end the Constitution. He said we're going to end democracy. And that's Trump. And Trump has already said he's going to be a dictator on day one. You think on day two, he's going to go back to being whatever he was before? Even that would be a disaster. No, he wants to be a dictator. He admires Adolf Hitler. He had Mein Kampf on his nightstand.
Yep. Anyway. That's absolutely correct. The thing is, it kills me is that I had somebody say this to me yesterday online was, Trump really wasn't that bad. The only, he picked on my, immigrants, but other than that, he was really mostly just talk and bluster. And that guy got thrown out the airlock because that's an incredible amount of privilege that you think that the only people affected were some brown people from south of the border. We're still feeling the effects, the negative effects of the Trump administration. And frankly, I went on coddle to try to haul him over to my side of the fence. I just don't have the goddamn patience or the energy for these assholes anymore. And the truth of the matter is, those people aren't going to show up and vote anyway. I don't have time for it. I don't have time to, if by now, if the last 10 years has not convinced you, then there's nothing that I can say to you. I mean, this is what we're talking. This is what I've written about the last couple of days. We keep these people. I've got a bunch of people yelling at me about the undecided voters. Who the hell's undecided in this country? Who's the undecided? What, some goddamn pig shit covered farmer in Kansas somewhere? That guy's not going to vote anyway. The people, if you're undecided at this point after all of this shit.
Well, traditionally, most people don't make up their minds until they're not paying attention to the news. They aren't, and the independents don't decide. Like in 2020, did a poll, the independents, and like something 10% that said, "Well, I still haven't made up my mind." It's like, wait a minute, a week before the election, you still haven't made up your mind? You haven't been paying attention?
Those people are going to goddamn vote anyway. If they're affected, if they don't give a shit about all the people that are affected by this asshole and these fascists, they're not going to show up anyway. I'm sorry. Wow.
Well, there's one of the pundits I follow.
I did some horrible thing to my knee, and I've got an electronic unit on there right now that's periodically just sending voltage right. Woo! Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
All right. One of the members of the commentariat that I do follow, because he gets enough of his facts right, he says that Trump has never gotten more than 7%, and he doesn't expect Trump to be able that. In fact, it may go down. Now, from his mouth to the ears of God, yeah, okay, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get cocky or relax or anything. It's like,
and please don't take me wrong. That's not what I mean. I don't have, you're undecided or you're on the fence or, I don't have a hell of a lot of time for you after all of this. If you haven't figured it out by now, there's nothing that I can say that's going to change your mind. But on the other hand, that's exactly right. You can't get cocky. You can't get complacent. I think there's a high probability that Donald Trump is going to go down in flames, and I sure as hell hope that's true. But one of the things that you learn in decades in the military is you hope for the best and you plan for absolute disaster. And that's where we're at. You have to show up. That's the thing about this. The situation we find ourselves in, people are losing their rights. The country's going in the wrong direction. I mean, now we're going to impose the Bible on students in school. All of this stuff yesterday, we basically gutted the Chevron decision yesterday. All of these things happened because people just didn't give enough of a shit to show up. And even when it comes down to elections like this one, there's going to be 40% of people that are eligible to vote that don't show up because they just don't goddamn care enough. This is how we wind up here at Matt Gaetz in the district that I live in. It's 50-50. Half of them are Democrats, half of them are Republicans, and yet Matt Gaetz keeps getting reelected. He wouldn't if people that give a shit showed up, but they don't because it doesn't affect them. And this is the situation that we find ourselves in. Everybody was warned in 2016. We let this asshole into office. We were going to go backwards. People are mad. Well, God damn, Joe Biden hasn't done this.
He left us
backwards.
Yeah, Trump left us poorer, sicker, weaker. Did he create any jobs? No. Did he come up with that great health plan he promised? I'll reveal it in 2 weeks. Yeah, here it is. 8 years later, and he still hasn't revealed it. Did he? Did he end the national debt like he promised? No. He added at least $2 trillion to our national debt, maybe more. He added more to the national debt than all his predecessors combined.
4 trillion.
4 trillion. I mean, the man will say whatever he thinks you want to hear, but give him the authority or the power to do what he wants, and he's in it for himself. Right now, he doesn't want the presidency because he wants to make a difference for the country. He wants a presidency to keep out of jail. That's it. Right. His one goal is to keep out of jail. And quite frankly, seeing that man go to jail, I would, it's like, I don't know that I would be able to have a big enough party to celebrate. I don't know if my heart could stand the joy, but I would be willing to try.
Again, now, about keeping your sense. Steve Bannon goes to prison. And I gotta laugh. I laugh all the way. I hope it's absolutely the worst goddamn 4 months of that asshole's life. That guy is a disgrace to the uniform that he wore, to the country. He's a greasy, unhealthy bum, and he belongs in goddamn prison. And it just makes me, of all the joyless shit that's happened in the last month, Steve Bannon going to prison tomorrow. Time's out. But I love the fact that he's going down swinging. I just saw an interview with him this morning where he's still threatening people. I'm coming to get you. Oh, you buddy, you keep that attitude up, Steve. You're going to need.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So.
Look, justice is slow. We went backwards. You're mad about the lack of progress that we're making as a nation. Well, that's what happens when you go backwards 2 steps. And again, the whole goddamn country was warned about this. I don't know how.
Well, the thing is, come 2016, there were people who were frustrated. There were people who didn't want to vote for a woman. There were people who thought what we need is a change of pace, and they believed that bull crap about they believed Trump was a successful businessman. And then they rigged the election in enough places. There was vote rigging, and there was Jill Stein pulled 10,000, 20,000 votes away from a key state, and Putin was investing money. And it's like, we have a lot of foreign nations pumping money into our elections. And but if Trump gets back into office, that's the end for global climate disruption. He will set back. We've made progress, but we'll be doomed. I mean, the Earth is going to heat up. That's his legacy. He'll make the planet unlivable. So
that's the thing.
Let me add something else. We don't know if Biden's going to withdraw. They're having a family meeting about that. We don't know, but that's one of the black swans that I predicted. Is there are things that we cannot predict that are going to happen. And Biden's debate performance was, we wanted Biden to go in there and kick the crap out of Trump. And instead, he disappointed, so disappointed that some people say he's got to withdraw. Okay, But there's other black swans. What if Trump has a complete mental breakdown? What if he drops dead? What if, you know, what if the Republican Party convention is such a fustercluck that their whole campaign falls apart? And in fact, any money being donated to the RNC, none of that is going to the downstate ground game. None of it is going to local candidates. None of it is going to win the election on the local level. It's half of it is going to pay Trump's legal fees, and the other half is going into Trump's own campaign or his pocket. Trump, and here's the point I wanted to make. Trump doesn't care if he wins the election because he's promising violence either way. He's promised. He has come out and said he's going to. He wants his followers to violently overthrow the results of the election, no matter what.
Right, and that's an excellent point, David. And again, if you watch the debate, if you read the stuff I wrote about it, and I'll write more about it. Hey, Adam, I see you there, man. I saw your comment go by. I wasn't sure what the boss was going to do. It's great to see you. But again,
thank you, Jim.
If you watch the debate, if you read the stuff that I wrote about it, and again, there'll be a lot deeper analysis this week. But if you've actually gone through and read the transcript, because reading the transcript's a whole lot easier. You see some things. There's some key points that come out of that debate. Number one, Donald Trump admitted openly that what happened on January 6th was a violent insurrection and that he was behind it. And that's exactly what he did, because he tried to blame it on Nancy Pelosi. If he really believed that it was just a couple of guys coming to support him, he wouldn't have tried to lay it on Nancy Pelosi. He wouldn't have tried to push off responsibility for not calling in the Army and the National Guard when it should have been done. That's one of the things that you should take away from that debate. And that's what the goddamn New York Times should be talking about today, and not Joe Biden's fucking cold. All right. That's a key point right there. Now this guy's yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Jim, look who joined us.
I know. I said hi.
Yeah.
Hey,
good
everybody.
to see you, Adam.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. What I want to say is that it absolutely astonishes me, and it thoroughly astonishes me, that Joe Biden has admittedly a bad night. He was sick. His voice was gone. He's never been a great orator at any point in his life. But he had a bad night. Obama's had a bad night. Everybody has bad night. I've seen Robin Williams when he wasn't funny. Okay? But he has this one bad night to compare. He shit the bed. He pissed himself. He did all these terrible things. And he's up against the guy for whom that is standard operating procedure.
Exactly.
Trump has said any number of, forget his evil. Trump has said any number of things in the last 2 years which by themselves are enough for a rational claim that he is demented.
Right.
Okay? It is basic. Biden stumbles over his words, has a sentence that doesn't work out, and all of a sudden, oh my God, we have to go back to the competent man. The competent man who changes weather with Sharpies. We have to go back to that guy.
Look, like I said, I spent most of my life in the military. You two guys know me personally. And for those who don't know, all three of us are friends. We all spent time in the same room. David periodically sleeps in my guest room. And in fact, we were just at MizCon together here not too long ago. Last month, we did this broadcast from MizCon last month. But Adam Troy is absolutely correct. You know, I spent 20 years in the military, and we had a lot of bad days. You have a lot of bad happens. There's setbacks. You got to keep slogging forward.
You look at the history of World War II, and the Battle of the Bulge caught us by surprise. We still won, but it didn't change our commitment. But it was a few bad days of, oh my God, what just happened here? So
the thing you got to ask yourself is, what changed? What did the debate actually change for you as a voter, as an American? Because it just didn't change. Who those people are, who those two candidates are, didn't change. The future that we want to build didn't change. So what changed for you? What, one old guy had a bad night? Big goddamn deal.
You know, I keep thinking if you put together the story of Trump and the Trump story of Biden, you have, let us make a single list of bullet points, things that they did that were unacceptable, absolutely beyond unacceptable. Biden has one in the view of many people, and that is,
Right.
of course, his
God.
response to Gaza,
Yeah.
which is not nothing.
Right.
We're talking in the case of Trump, we're talking about a guy who said, you know what, we're going to leave the cruise ship passengers offshore because then they won't count. Then they won't.
Right.
And that is one thing. That is one. He let 1 million Americans die without response, with a pandemic that he claimed was a fraud, that people don't remember him saying it was a fraud.
Right.
Okay. In his daily life, in his existent life, Trump has not spent a day without being the unacceptable person. And it's,
I will tell you this. If you asked me, I could find something nice to say about Hitler. He loved dogs. If you asked me, I could find something nice to say about Gene Roddenberry's despicable lawyer who put in one good thing in the Next Generation contract. But I cannot find a single nice thing or admirable thing to say about Donald Trump, except that he's mortal and someday I could say about that man. I cannot find an element of his personality.
I could find more than one redeeming element of Adolf Hitler's personality. More than one. Granted, it's only two.
Yeah, he's a good speaker. He's a good speaker.
Well,
The second one actually is that he was at, and this is visible in a movie called Downfall, which is one of the greatest movies of the 21st century. He was extraordinarily nice to his secretary.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
he
also had the wherewithal to cyanide and put a pistol in his mouth.
When it was time, Hitler killed himself.
If we're going to go down this road,
Trump,
I would have no problem. But I would say this to you. This is what I would say to you. I'm building on what both of you guys said. Humor aside, if you watch that debate and if you watch both of those men speak, whether or not one is dynamic and whether or not one is quiet and stutters over his words, this is what you should. Is what the difference is. When Donald Trump talks, every pronoun is I or me. When Joe Biden talks, his pronouns are we, us. That's the difference. Joe Biden sees himself as a leader of a nation that's working together. Donald Trump sees himself as a goddamn dictator, and he's in it for himself and nobody else. And that's what you should take away from the debate.
The bad thing, not the bad thing, but a bad thing about Trump is that, of course, with any politician, any celebrated person, you can come up with a fact that is just off the top of your head, which is maniacal and stupid, that is not true. Okay. And you will say, no, I don't believe that, for instance, Hillary Clinton owns an international pedophile ring she runs out of the basement of a pizzeria that does not have a basement. You can make up stuff about any of these people, and immediately, you know that they are false, because I've heard people say horrible things about Tom Hanks that I know are not true. Immediately, you know this thing is made up. You cannot come up with a Trump. He tried to strangle his Secret Service agent, which is not true, which is apparently not true. But you believed it for a second, didn't you?
Sure. Because you can believe anything about it
for a second because it was in character.
Yeah. Sure. It's absolutely true. And like I said, I don't know how anything is different today than it was at this time last week. And if it is for you, well, then I don't know what the hell to say. If you just now realize that Joe Biden is elderly, well, welcome to the goddamn party, pal. I don't know what the hell to say to you. I mean, thank God he finally got here. But the other side of that is You have two choices. And this is a big thing that I see, and this is especially a thing I see on the left, and it's going to make people mad, and I'll get hate mail. But the bottom line is the left often talks about how things should be and not how things are. And that's what I see in my social media feeds right now. Well, it should be like this. It should be like that. Yeah, it should. It should be a better goddamn world. It's not. And you're going to have to face it the way it is. These are your choices.
I have said more than once, you're not getting a pony. You're getting a working plow horse, or you can have a big squealing rabid pig. What do you want? I want a working plow horse. I want to get the fields plowed. I want to get the crops in. Right. You know, I don't need a pony.
Right. Well, the thing is, you know, like I said, we all want a better world. That's what we're doing here. That's why people follow me. That's why this is why they followed Star Trek all those years ago. That's why they read Adam. We all talk and write, follow us. Yeah. But the problem with that is, and not the problem with it is, that's a great thing. Ideals are a great thing. Goals are a great thing, but it's not going to happen instantly. You can't wish it into existence. It's hard work. And it gets further away if you go backwards. And that's what happened in 2016. We went backwards. We're still not where we were in 2016. We are backwards. And the problem is, we didn't just go backwards.
We were warned. We were warned by multiple people.
I'm one of them. You know,
that's we were warned by multiple people. I was just going to say, the Supreme Court had won the election. We would not have a Supreme Court that is overturning established law, settled law. Roe versus Wade. Some of those liars said, yeah, Roe versus Wade is settled law. And then they voted to overturn it. And we are stuck with women are dying and babies are being born defective or dead because we do not have a responsible nationwide standard anymore for personal freedom for women, for body autonomy. It's like if a person doesn't have body autonomy, they don't have freedom. It comes in. Tuli Kupferberg wrote a book. He was one of the thugs. He wrote a book called The Body, a little tiny book, which I have saved my copy. And part of it is all freedom comes from the body. If you do not have freedom for your body, you are not free. And that's what that is the issue. Is the right wing wants to destroy freedom. Body autonomy is one of, first they're going to take away the right to abortion. They're going to take away marriage equality. They will make same-sex relationships illegal again. It is all about controlling what you can do with your body.
Right.
If in 2016 Clinton had won, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito would be the guys who showed up to work every day and were upset by all the assholes they had to deal with.
Right. So I think what'll happen now. What'll happen because you two brought this up, and what one is I'll be full of the Hillary Clinton haters who, blah, blah, blah. If we'd only had a better candidate. Yeah, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Here's the thing, folks. I don't care whether you like Hillary or you didn't like Hillary. The conditions haven't changed. And this is the same people that are mad about their choices in 2016 and mad about their choices in 2020 or mad about their choices now. I can't help you. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either, but I'm not a Democrat. I didn't pick Joe Biden, but those are the choices. And either you choose or you're a child and you whine about what should be or what you want instead of what is. I will tell you again, 20 years, maybe it's different for me because I spent 20 years in the military, but I cannot tell you how many days up a river in Iraq, I was faced with choices, both of which I didn't like. Any guy in charge, I still had to choose because I still had to get the mission done and I still had to get those men home alive. That's called being an adult. That's called doing the job. And that's the job of citizenship. Whether or not you like the choices, those are the choices. And you got to you just have to stand up and choose. That's how it is.
There is another element. The element is that if you're turning the nation in a direction, some of the and make an advancement from point A to point B. You don't go to point Z. If you make an advancement from point A to point B may be only slightly less despicable than the thing you're moving away from. Great example being the military's don't ask, don't tell. What a terrible policy. But it was slightly better from the last policy.
No. It was supposed to be slightly better, but it turned into, the Pentagon turned it into a way to persecute more gay and lesbian members of the military. It was a nightmare.
You know more than I do on this subject, David. I admit this right away, and if I'm right, and I will being wrong.
I will agree with you. It looked like a good idea, but under the next president, it turned into a weapon of persecution.
It made the next policy possible, even though people were stuck with it. There are plenty. I did use the phrase "slightly less despicable," so I was not. The point is that right now, if you can't get 30 miles a gallon as a requirement, and you manage to get 25 a gallon when the previous policy is 20, that
I will give you that it was the first time that we had a presidential or a congressional or a federal acknowledgement that gay people exist. Because during the Reagan administration, they totally ignored the AIDS crisis, and millions of people died. Eventually, 40 million people died from HIV because the Reagan administration refused to acknowledge the existence of HIV. They finally mentioned, what was his name, Ryan White. That was it. Who was, he got it by a transfusion. But to acknowledge the existence of gay people was one of the worst crimes that a president could do at that time. So, and Reagan, of course, it was taking his orders from the right wing. He was a very convenient figurehead.
Well,
by the way, Reagan had a terrible first night in his first debate against Walter Mondale, and somehow he still won the election.
I will say
Obama had a terrible night.
Yeah, it's a follow-up with the whole period. You're both absolutely correct, and that's an important point to the audience and to those folks that are having doubts today that. Yeah, progress is incremental. I mean, you believe in evolution. Well, evolution is very small changes over time, and that's right. And I realize that that's a horrible thing to say to people that are living on the margins. That oh, hey, man, maybe in your lifetime it's not going to happen, but it'll be better. Yeah, that's a shit message. I absolutely agree with that. Unfortunately, again, we're back in what is. And you're fighting 70 million people that would have no problem lighting you on fire, that right now are trying to force their shitty religion onto your goddamn kids in classrooms, that literally want to build a wall with machine guns and dogs and keep all the brown people on the other side of it. I mean, that's who. And I like I said, to me, there's nothing more horrifying. Of course, I'm the guy that's the entire society's built around. I'm a straight white man. I mean, and so I stand up here and say, hey, listen, marginalized people, you're going to have to wait a little longer. Wow, dude, I know I could hear those words coming out of my mouth. I know how shitty that is. But
yeah, unfortunately, you can't have a magic wand that'll give you the perfect policy.
Right. And letting Donald Trump back into office. Well, we've already gone 2 steps backwards. We let this asshole back into office, and we're going to go 20 years back we're going to go 40, 50 years back in time, man. That's where we're at. And
it's not just that. It's that we will lose our Constitution. We'll lose the nation. That's what's at stake. Do we want to have the United States of America as this thing that we remember fondly, or do we want to have the United States of America as a place to build back better, to build a better future? And we want to continue America. And because Trump and Project 2025, they've made no secret that they want to install a theocratic dictatorship. Trump the Republican Party made an unholy alliance with the evangelicals, and they are never going to quit. They're never going to let go of the Republican Party. The Republican Party has to be killed. It has to be destroyed once and for all. And it will, because the younger generations, every year we get a new generation of voters who are ready to vote. and they're voting 60% blue. And given enough time, the Republican Party is going to get their head smashed in at the polls. They're going to get destroyed by the fact that the demographics are working against them. They're trying to establish a dictatorship before that happens because they just don't want to give up power. I mean, God knows some of those people, they want to have the first trillionaire in recorded history being on their side. And we're on our way to having somebody be a trillionaire, probably be Jeff Bezos.
Right. Like I said, it's, you know, it's you mentioned young people, and that's the thing. I hope the hell they show up this time. You know, and again, I'm not. If you don't start typing on your keyboard, give me a minute. But the thing is that, you know, I see this in every election where we have people that young folks, the younger generation, and I was 25 myself once upon a time, so I try to remember that far back, that are passionate about things. They'll stand out and they'll spend all day on social. Damn day that it matters, they don't fucking show up, and that's the problem. That's the problem in the district that I live in, where you have young people that are foursquare against where the hell the Republican Party went. Matt Gaetz is still your representative because on election day, when it actually matters, when you could change things without violence, without burning the country down, you don't show up. And you can get all the mad at me you want, but you can go look at election results, and you can go look at voter records. And as ugly as that truth is, it's still the goddamn truth. Want to change the world, you got to show the hell up. That's how it works. And I hope the hell that the younger generation shows up this time, because I guarantee you that mean, nasty, cranky, racist guy votes every time, no matter what. So you got to show up, man. You can change the world.
You know,
I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
I remember. I will tell you. This goes way back. I won't tell you the woman. You might, not that it matters, but I was telling her it was important to vote, and she says, "Oh no, we don't vote. We don't believe in voting." She's talking about her whole family. I said, I think that was one of the days that I began that long, slow process of not only disrespecting her, but not being her friend anymore. It's like, either you vote, either you get involved in this nation, or can't really be friends, because I only want people who are committed to building a future.
You know, for me,
she later proved she was crazy as hell anyway.
Right. But for me, the whole country's built around me. I'm a straight white male. I'm older. The whole country's built around me. It's not going to make a goddamn. Trump gets elected, and well, they'll probably come for me because of shit that I've said online. But the truth of the matter is, that people like me are not going to be affected. Now, you could stay home, or you could vote for the powers as is. And that's a selfish ass position to be in. I mean, either you give a shit about everybody else or you don't, man. And it's not about me. I don't vote. I don't write the things that I write for me. I write them because I give a shit about the future. I write them because I go and I vote for people like Biden. I give a shit about the world that we're leaving for our kids, man. And I got a 2-year-old grandson. Kind of goddamn world of people in my own family who have said, I don't know, I don't care, I won't be here to see it. Well, that's a crap attitude, man. That's a crap attitude. Great, you made a profit now, and the seas are 10 degrees warmer, and there's nothing left for our goddamn grandchildren. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, you know, I've met your little grandson. He's absolutely adorable. He's wonderful. I got 2 grandkids here. I am concerned that they have a safe. That's what my grandmother told me. And that's your job in life. And people who are so selfish and so self-centered, and I think that's because with corporate America, it doesn't see us as people, but sees us as things to be monetized, as consumers, as products, as things to be used. And if corporate America would say, hey, we have to build a better world, but it doesn't, because the structure of that is built in. It's the bottom line there is this corporation profitable? And they're not thinking in terms of how do we, what services are we providing? And it's built into the society we've built. And until we change that, We are stuck in a loop that is going to destroy us.
Do you?
That's not even if the corporation is
myself-
profitable. It's if you're making a profit for the shareholder. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I myself am this year becoming a grand uncle twice.
Right.
Okay, once for my nephew, once for my niece. Not equally giving birth, but I am becoming a grand uncle twice, and both kids are going to be born after November. And it has occurred, actually, at least one of them is, but it occurs to me, it has occurred to me more than once. One of those kids may never have existed in a world with democracy in the United States.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I feel that very much. Now, I will also admit to feeling the selfish thing. It crosses my mind once in a while. Your life expectancy is not to read any James Clavell novels, but you have to worry about the future. I've spent my life reading stories of the future. I want to at least contribute to that story, and you should want that. You
got to decide what that, again, which future do you want? Because, we saw this. And in fact, David and I talk about this to various people at the conventions we wind up with together. And there's, in the community that all three of us operate in, the sci-fi for that, and because probably a large part of my audience comes to me for politics and not for the sci-fi that I write. But in the sci-fi community, there's kind of it's not, this is a real generalization, but there are those folks that come to sci-fi and the old Star Trek model of the universe is a vast unknown place. Let's go find out what's out there and make some friends. And then there's the other side of it of let's go find out what's out there and kill everybody, conquer the universe. And sci-fi being basically everything else. You see that very much in the politics of our nation now. Those people that are xenophobic, paranoid, they don't want anything to change. And these are the people that are, of course, that benefit from this society the way that it is. And they don't give a shit. They have no empathy for people that are marginalized. These are the people that climb down into the lifeboats and 1,000 people drown behind them.
I have an example from my own life. I have a relative who is not just a Trumper, but a Q person. Haven't spoken to her in a few years. She's a Q person. I discovered this one of the worst moments of my life. It was just after my wife died.
Right.
She told me that January 6th was a fraud staged by Black Lives Matter. So that's what we're talking about. That's the finality. That's the kind of mind we are working about. And her daughter recently graduated college, and her daughter got a job where she wanted to get a job in editing in TV news, 2 hours from home. And she couldn't commute 2 hours a day to this television station and then 2 hours a day back. But her aunt, who lived half the distance, gave her a place to stay in for no rent, only 1 hour away. And she was living with her aunt for 6 weeks. But her aunt was a Democratic liberal. The mother showed up one day, no warning, packed up the daughter, who's in her 20s, and brought her home. And said, and because of this young girl is no longer working at that TV station. She's working, I think, a MIC job.
Yeah.
After 4 years of college. My wife and I offered to take this girl to New York for a 1 week visit. We offered to take her to Europe for a 1 week visit. Her mother does not want her to be anywhere but within 50 miles of home, ever.
And you live here in Florida, same as I do, and these are the people that I'm surrounded by. We don't want our children to get what they say here is above your station, above yourself. You think you're better than your parents.
Doesn't want her exposed to any other ideas. Doesn't want her to read books that disapprove of the ideas. Doesn't want her to ever see any other bit of the world. And I make this microcosm. I make this I make this a picture of what's going on. There are a lot of people out there who literally don't want exposure to anything else but what's within 5 blocks of their house. And that's a lot of what drives the Republican Party.
Right. Well, I got it this morning. I saw it. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Burgum there, the Doug Burgum, who's the governor here. He was saying this morning on one of the news shows. He said Donald Trump, at the end of his term, left the White House. We had a smooth transition, and January 6th wasn't a smooth transition, but this guy believes that it is. And he says, well, I think we have to say there was a smooth transition, and I've been living under what I call the Biden dictatorship ever since. And my response online was, really, the Biden dictatorship? Tell me, what kind of dictatorship would allow this guy to go on television and talk shit about it? What kind of dictatorship lets you say whatever the hell you want, own guns, worship whatever god you like, appoint a Supreme Court that only decides in your favor, and let you go on TV and talk shit about it? Describe that dictatorship to me. I love to hear it. I mean,
and if you, the thing is, if you ask them, yeah,
what the hell? But these people live in this fantasy land of we're being crushed under a dictatorship. Asshole. Gay people have the right to marry or to live their goddamn lives without being harassed by you. Just because women have control over their bodies because other people have rights doesn't mean you're oppressed, you stupid son of a bitch.
Yeah, rights are not a zero-sum game.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly where we're going. Rights are not a zero-sum game. The more free other people are, the more free you are. But they don't see it.
You ask them why it's dictatorship. It says, well, we have to tolerate the gay people. There are trans people walking around, and blah, blah, blah. It says, so all these things that you object to in your dictatorship, in this dictatorship, is you having to tolerate these other people off to the side of you. It's insane.
But I mean, this is exactly how you wound up with places like Nazi Germany. But the absolute intolerance of anything outside of the established ideology. I mean, it literally happened this way. I mean, one of the first things that the Nazis went after was art, went after gay people, went after the very things that you're seeing, went after education, went after religions other than whatever the hell it was that they worship. People want to say it's Christianity, but anyway, the bottom line is that the similarities are horrifying. That's exactly what you're looking at here. I stopped talking because I figured one of you was going to start talking.
I
don't want to just gallop you.
The history of the Nazi Party, and there's a wonderful documentary called The Architecture of Doom, which is probably about 40 years old now, but it traces that Joseph Goebbels, who was there, a minister of propaganda, created false periodicals, false documentaries, false newspapers, all in service of the Nazi ideology, so as to move what they call the Overton window to the right, so much so that the German public couldn't tell what was real and what was false anymore. And this is what Rupert Murdoch and Fox News have been doing, is they've been flooding the social media and the news media and the content media with so much misinformation that we distrust everything now. It's not, they're not in the business of convincing us that they're right. They're in the business of convincing us not to trust anybody or anything that's reporting. That's why there's so many conspiracy theories and so much crap. And part of the crap showing up on the on Facebook is coming from bots. They have perfected at least artificial stupidity. These bots show up pretending to be real people, spouting the most incredibles. I got one off my page the other day who was referring to Joe Biden as Genocide Joe. I think it was a real human being, but he was right there spouting the propaganda. It's like, and somebody alerted me to it because yesterday, the day before, were very busy days here, and I wasn't checking in. I said, "Oh my God, look at this!" So I posted bless your little heart and then deleted the message.
You're absolutely correct. I'll give you
Here's
another.
Fugazi.
I'll give you a perfect
That blows
example.
my mind.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Exactly. No, I know that they got three of us out here, right? but what David said there, you don't trust anything. This morning, I saw an article about a guy, a young black business owner, his barber, runs a barber shop in Atlanta, and that's where that Blacks for Trump nonsense came from the other day. That was all over the news and online about showed these people of color that were sitting in there who became increasingly disbelieving of the nonsense that was when Donald Trump was talking about he created more black jobs and yada and all that kind of and leaving aside what the hell's a black job, but so when the further details came out about that, it turns out this guy had no idea what he was getting into. It was proposed to him as a small business owner, black minority-owned business conference where they would discuss or they would have a roundtable in Atlanta. And what happened was once the cameras were on and this live stream was running, well, then it became a Donald Trump show, and Trump phoned in, and this guy was completely blindsided by it. Now, when I talked about that this morning and I relayed that on social media, one of the first people to respond to that said, well, maybe, but I think there's something fishy about that because we don't trust anything. We can't even trust that this guy who obviously got blindsided, who is opposed to everything that happened to him and lost business over it. This guy obviously got blindsided. Well, we don't believe it. We think there's something fishy. And somebody else said, well, this guy was trying to promote his business. Well, what the hell's wrong with that? No shit, man. I mean, I promote my business. Why? Where the hell's the downside of that? But now suddenly we're accusing this guy of all kind of stuff because he got blindsided. And this is a bigger part of this trusting thing. We don't trust people that are decent, honest folks that are just trying to live their lives nowadays. We mistrust everything, and that's very much a side effect of increasing things like artificial intelligence, of people that lie continuously like Donald Trump, the news media that is stepped outside of traditional journalism. Anyway, what were you going to say, Adam Troy?
What I have said has been let's just say this: they are also working very, very hard on curtailing what we know, on curtailing what we think.
Right.
I do, believe it or not, have right wingers among my friends, among my very good friends, including a couple of Trumpers, who become my friends because they are generous. They are emotionally generous to me. I don't require much. I do not wall off areas, but the arguments are crazy. The arguments are crazy to the effect, yes, people get to decide what books their children will read. Yes, they do. What they don't have the right to decide is what books are available to all kids.
Right.
And they're full-time involved in removing history books.
Right.
Dozens of history books from the schools. And Florida is especially bad. Hundreds of books. You are not allowed to teach kids about lynchings in Florida. Right. You are not allowed to teach kids about the many towns.
For those who don't know, both Adam Troy Castro and myself both live in Florida. He lives on the other end of the state, and I live in the backward ass panhandle. And so, yeah, he's absolutely correct. We literally live in a state where we're not allowed to talk about the history of this state. I literally live 15 miles from a place that was the last sundown town, the last legal sundown town in America. I'm not saying sundown towns don't exist now, but the last legal sundown town. The town that I live in, right downtown, and I think I've mentioned this on this podcast before, has a train station museum. And that train station was operational all the way to the end of the 70s. And there is a white only and a colored only waiting room for that train. And that was right up until 1970. If children from the local school visit that museum, the teachers cannot explain why there are two waiting rooms with those words on them.
I think the phrase that somebody used, The phrase that somebody used, which is absolutely perfect, is an addendum to the statement, those who do not remember history are condemned to repeat it.
And the
those
rest
who
of us are scared shitless. Those who do remember history are scared shitless.
The second half of the statement is those who want to repeat history stop you from mentioning it.
That's right.
Okay? And they want to repeat history. They absolutely want to repeat history. When they say make America great again, they mean not 1950, they mean 1920.
Right, sure.
They mean 1920. They mean when they're killing people, but killing people.
Right. I'm trying to figure out what David's eating there. That's now I'm hungry, but that's absolutely correct. When they talk about, again, you'll notice that since that phrase has been in our vernacular for since 2016, since 2015, make America great again, and it's literally a play on something that's much older than that. But you'll know time. Donald Trump has never defined what that means, nor have any of his supporters, nor do the people who print the posters or write the books with the word MAGA on the front of them. That's because they damn well know what they mean, and they don't want to tell it. They don't want to say it out loud. And what they do mean you're exactly right. What they mean is 1920, when white men owned everything and everybody else knew their place and stayed on their side of the tracks. But it's more than that. In those days, guys like Trump, everything, right? Their names are on it. Carnegie, Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, their names are on all the shit in this country because they owned everything. There was a handful of these people, they owned everything, and you got to pay them for the privilege of eating out of their garbage can. That's what they mean by make America great again. And that's why they won't tell you that. Now, if that's the world you want to go November, but if you want to move forward, then you're going to have to show up whether you like the choices or not. That's just how it is. And I think...
Well, there is this. When there is a large turnout, Democrats win.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Every time. If you show up, you can win. This country, for all the flaws in its founding and all of the things we've done wrong since, the fun truth of this country, change things without killing each other. That's the whole point. You can make changes. It's unlike religion. It's not written in stone. It wasn't written on tablets. The fundamental ability to change the society that we live in is literally built into the Constitution. And we've changed this country many times. Take a look at the amendments to the Constitution. We change our future without having to slaughter people. And that's the one fundamental difference in this country from what became before. When people talk about America being exceptional, that's the exception. That right there. But it only works if you show up. And it's a hell, and there's nothing that kills me more than these people talk about, well, we got guns too. Listen, goddammit. We could change the country without slaughtering each other. That's the whole point. Waiting until there's nothing left but violence, that's not the moral high ground that you think it is. So stop making that argument and get your goddamn friends and get down to the polls and change the country without killing each other. All right, I'm done. That's it. 12 o'clock, we're out of here. See you, bye.
Yeah, ditto.
Ditto,
that goes
ditto,
for me
ditto.
too.
Where's our host? Our host has mysteriously disappeared.
He said
Yeah.
when I came on, he said he was swapping out one bald white guy for another. So that bald white guy is somewhere in the shadows, as us bald white guys.
He's there. He's lurking around. I hear his dog every once in a while. There he is.
Oh, I'm still here. Well,
all right.
Thank you guys very much for showing up. And some of our viewers have lost the feed and others haven't.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm taking it up with Restream offline. But any closing thoughts before we say goodbye?
I think we've dittoed.
Yeah.
There's nothing I could say to add to Jim to what Jim said that wouldn't be anticlimactic. So I'll just say ditto.
Okay.
All right. And the problem is, David, you and I have spent way too much time in the same room with each other.
Yeah.
I think half the time I say whatever David said. What I didn't hear what he said, but whatever he said, that's good. Just go with that.
You know, guys, I would love to have that problem.
Right.
Oh, I love it.
I would love to have that problem.
Right. We got to get you. We got to start getting you back to conventions again. We got to start seeing you in person.
Well,
you're still live here for just a little bit because it's an interesting dilemma. The Restream help screen covers the in the Restream.
We're trapped. Oh God.
So we're trapped online. But I tell you what, I'm going to end the whole thing and say thank you very much for coming, David and Troy. And when I get a note from Troy that says, "Oh, please, I got something to say," I figure that that's good. And so stand by, America, because we're working on Southern editions and it's coming out soon. So we're going to have a fun time. And
Right.
goodbye. Go ahead.
Later. No, go ahead.
Okay, so now let's see if I can figure out how to end this without.
This is the liberal. When you have the 4 screen, this is like the liberal Brady Bunch.
Once you had 4 white men talking about shit, that's what it is.
I will be.
That's maybe you could change the title to 4 white men talking about shit. That would be a good title.
I will be attending conventions next year, but not the rest of this year.
I think if you could, they should talking about to go out and buy a Cybertruck, though.
Oh no.
Well, here, hold on. Let me try this.
For God's sake, Bob, I can only ad-lib for so long. Get to it.
Oh, come on. You guys could ad-lib all
We're doing
day
like I said,
I'm gonna say goodbye.
Hey, I've got homemade chili here. I'm hot. I'm
He killed
happy.
himself. He killed himself. He was still alive.
Elise made great homemade chili. I'm happy.
I hope to make it. I hope to make it up north soon, David.
Yeah. Dust off the guest room for you.
Yeah, you got to get up here. Got to get up here for Pensacon again. David and I had fun.
Last time I tried to get to Pensacon, they wouldn't let me be a guest. But
you're going to get to MizCon. We had a blast at MizCon. That's always a.
We had a great time.
That's a great time.
Unfortunately, this year is probably going to be a lot of curtailed travel.
Yeah.
It's for me because I'm ill, and I hope to get past it. But we will.
You look pretty great though. So I'm hoping things are.
Nothing has started. The good news is that my 2 surgeries have now been reduced to 1 surgery.
All right, good.
They were going to go in. Yeah. They were going to go in, beat up the tumor, and then take out the tumor in a subsequent surgery. And they just discovered it's easy enough to take it out the first time.
As always, I hope everything goes well for you, and it all works out. I don't say a lot of things online because when I do, 500,000 people follow me into your feed, and then I feel like an asshole.
And then you have to go through and look at the comments to see who you have to block.
Right. So I try to be careful about that kind of thing. But
you don't drag in many. You don't drag in many of the assholes, Jim.
No, it's nice. Nowadays I've been pretty ruthless about weeding people out, and so most of my audience are people that I really enjoy seeing every day, and they bring me a lot of joy. And I don't spend any time on Twitter. My Twitter account's locked anyway. I can't post over there anymore anyway. So a lot of the hate mail and death threats kind of went away when Twitter went away. So, some days I miss it though. I really did enjoy some of the more creative insults. And some of the the more creative death threats, and but is a distraction. I mean, it's nice. It'll keep you humble. It's nice to know that not everybody loves you.
I have curated my page to the extent that I don't get many assholes anymore because they, I've gotten rid of a lot of folks, but
my block list is up to 5,000, I think. So.
The two things that I get that
I passed 15 years ago, buddy.
The two things that I have that are absolutely terrible is the two things is one, the people. I mean, I mention Harlan Ellison or Isaac Asimov or any of the other writers that are not problematic, and just says you clearly have never
right. Plus, I said you missed it before we came online. I was talking to David. I said something about I don't even remember what the hell it was, and I had somebody come to me and say, "Well, are you even old enough to know what tribbles are?" I'm like, the guy. First of all, yeah, God damn it! But thank you for thinking that I'm not. I really do appreciate that. But
I have tribbles in my house.
The guy that invented tribbles,
where they come from.
Yeah, the guy that invented.
Yeah, I had somebody explaining tribbles to me one time.
Right. But the other one I got was the single worst comment on my page. I was discussing my illness. The worst comment I got ever, and I just responded with, says, because I was talking about the fact that the cancer has come back and blah blah blah. I'm very open about the details, whatever. And everybody's saying I have an uncle who had that diagnosis 15 years ago, was still alive. I have another one who's 20 years ago went, blah blah blah, and that went through. There were 20 in a row like that, which I understand. Right. Oh God, that's a bad thing. And then one person said, you know what? Once you get that diagnosis, it's a death sentence. And I'm like, what are you even thinking? What? In what world is it okay for that to be your comment?
I mean, first of all, it's not true. But second of all, even if it was true, exactly. In what world is it okay to say shit like that to somebody? What the hell's wrong with you people? I will tell you that not a day goes by that I don't. I think that to myself 20 times a day. What the hell is wrong with you? Who talks to people like that? Who thinks that way? What the fuck is? What in the hell is the matter with you people? I don't know. Now, on the other hand,
I have nothing to add to that is even in the same league. But I will share this one. There was a discussion going on. I don't even remember what the discussion was. And somebody responded to, I made a very serious post. Somebody responded with, "It is too late for the Pebbles to vote. The avalanche has already started." I said, "God, that's a great line. Where did you get it?" Oh, wait, I know. It was on Babylon 5. It was in the Believers episode. Why don't you look it up to see who wrote that? Because that's a really the guy disappeared from the thread, never came back.
I think it's.
I wish I'd saved it.
Right, as a writer, it's always hilarious to me when somebody quotes you to you. And I've had people come back to me with things.
That was great. Thank you.
Matter of fact, see what that guy said. I'm that guy, but
There's a wonderful
time it happened to me, I was dumbfounded, but it happens enough now that I'm always, it makes me laugh. I see we're still alive. I mean, Bob,
we can talk.
Your buddy?
Yeah, I've had people come at me because of because I said something nice about Harlan. And it's like, Harlan saved my life. What am I supposed to do? Because he made one stupid mistake that you're still carrying a grudge about. It's like, I knew Harlan. You never met him, and it's like, but it's like, yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, goddamn, say something nice about William Shatner. See what the fuck happens to your feed.
William Shatner is he's really a good guy, and I know him. I won't say I know him better than most people, but I know him well enough to know he's a good man.
Right.
I have, I happen to have one of the world's great anecdotes about the science fiction editor, comic book editor, Julius Schwartz. It is one of the greatest. It is one of the great. This is not a segue to the anecdote. If you want it, I'll tell you. But it is one of the great anecdotes about a science fiction personality that I have experienced in 35 years. Okay, it is hilarious. And so, but every once in a while, I want to tell this story. I get online and I say, yes, Julius Schwartz is a problematic person. He did this, and this. I've lost respect for him because of these things he did, which are very objectionable. Yes, 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 and yes. However, I have this totally endearing story about him. And then I tell the story. And then the responses are, you're totally ignoring what kind of man he was.
Yeah, right.
I spent half of that toast telling you that I recognize it.
Right, but that's the thing nowadays. I mean, people are we've become that sort of age, and it's not just any one thing, but our politicians are this way, our news is this way, our entertainment is this way, our social media is this way, and it exacerbates that tendency of humanity to be the shittiest person that they can possibly be, where they, I mean, no matter what you say. Again, this morning, as I said, hey, jokingly, hear me out, let's replace Joe Biden with Taylor Swift. We're legitimately outraged. I mean, how can you be outraged by that? My God, man, I would be exhausted if I was outraged at something as minor as that. My God, I spend 18 hours a day staring at social media. For the love of God, man, I wouldn't be able to make it. I'd be comatose by noon. For God's sake, not everything requires that you bare your teeth and flight around.
About 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I posted a meme made by me, which was a picture of Joe Biden.
I know which one you're talking about. I saw it. Yeah.
Next to a picture of a watch.
Right.
Did you see this, David? A picture of Joe Biden next to a picture of a watch.
Right.
And the joke was, what does this picture show? Biden, his time. That's the joke.
Right.
That's the whole joke. The thread filled up with, what are you saying? What horrible thing are you saying?
This is the thing that's hilarious about this. Like I said, Joe Biden's old. That's a fact. There's no way around that. And Biden himself he went to a rally the other day, and that's what he opened with. I'm old. I don't remember shit all the time anymore. I'm not so great at debating. Whatever, And I mean, for God's sake, if the guy can laugh at himself and if he can say it out loud, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, my son thinks it's funny to remind me I'm old. So,
right.
It's like, I say, okay, I'll start being a burden today.
Right.